If you're stressed about sales because some months you're making the most you've ever made and then other months you're making $0 or very little, and that feast and famine roller coaster you're riding is just bringing you so much anxiety and stress, then this episode is going to be a game changer for you because I'm going to walk you through how you can achieve consistent monthly sales without burning out, aka in a sustainable manner. So let's dive in. The first step is to set an intention and build a strategy around sustainable sales. When I say sustainable sales, I mean doing it in a way where it is consistent and you can do it month over month without burning out, because that's how you make things consistent. Previously, before I expanded and pivoted my business and went through that whole existential crisis, which you may know, I talked about it on the podcast before and also on my YouTube channel. But before then, I was doing all out launches. I was trying to make as much as I could. Because of that, I was doing so many sales calls. I was doing so many masterclasses. I was doing so many webinars. I was reaching out to people and just doing all the things that people tell you to do. But I feel like what people fail to mention when they tell you to do all the things is the fact that it's probably not sustainable and feasible in the long run. Because yeah, I could go pedal to the metal for maybe a couple weeks or maybe even a month. After that, I would inevitably hit a wall. I would be so burnt out, not even want to get out of bed because I literally didn't have the energy. That's why I had inconsistent sales, because yes, there's some months where I'm feeling great and I'm energized and I have the ability to do all the things. But then other months I'm so burnt out, I can't get out of bed. So obviously I can't jump on sales calls, or obviously I can't do this masterclass, or obviously I can't reach out to people to do collabs. Because of that, the income just fluctuates. The name in the game here is to set the intention and build a strategy around how we can do this sustainably so that your sales are more consistent and so that you also are less stressed, because it is so stressful not to know how your mental health is going to be next month. You also don't know if your sales are going to be up or down. That's just not the situation I want you to be in. I want you to understand that you can do it sustainably, and not only can you do that, you absolutely should, so that you can level this out and this can feel more stable for you. That's the very first step, setting that intention and understanding that we're going to build an entire strategy around that in this episode. The other thing I wanted to mention as well is to also work on your relationship with sales. All of us can continue to work on our relationship with sales, because in social media or even in the media, whenever people talk about sales, automatically I think people picture sleazy car salesmen or unethical and pushy sales tactics. But obviously, that's not what we're going to be doing here. We're selling something that people actually need, want, and value. If you listened to last week's podcast episode where I talked about how to create products that people actually want, that's the first step in having sustainable sales and creating consistent monthly income. The first step is figuring out your product and creating something that people actually need, want, and will buy. If you have a great product that solves a problem, solves a pain point, it's obviously going to be so much easier to sell it. That's the very, very first step when we're talking about building the intention to have sustainable sales and building a plan around that. You need to nail your products. If you haven't listened to that episode, I will link it down below. Take a listen. You're setting the intention to achieve sales in a sustainable manner so that it can be more consistent. In order to actually achieve that, that brings me to step 2, which is to build out and create a sustainable sales system or sustainable sales funnel. You've likely seen various pictures of what a sales funnel looks like, and usually it's this upside down triangle where at the top it's traffic, and then people get nurtured, and then people convert on the bottom. The reason why it's an upside down triangle is because it indicates how many people are in your funnel, and people will fall out of your funnel as they continue to interact with your business. That's completely fine and normal, because you and your products and you and your business are not for everyone. It's really just for your ideal customer. That's what a traditional sales funnel looks like. And I like to break it down a little bit more and ensure that we can have things running in the background to help you, which is truly how we make it sustainable. Because if you're manually having to drive more traffic, to nurture your audience, to convert them all the time, it's no wonder you're going to burn out. If you had things that are automated running in the background, that makes your life so much easier. Of course, we're going to be doing things manually as well, so that both of those things can work together. And this is actually the entire basis of my Sustain Your Sales course, which is my A to Z on how to achieve consistent monthly sales without burning out, aka in a sustainable manner. This has taken me over half a decade to put together because it's a lot of trial and error with my previous business. When I was first starting out as an entrepreneur, I invested in so many courses, programs, and mentors. They got me results, but all of them were preaching that grow at all costs mentality, where it was like pedal to the metal, And yeah, it got me some results, but inevitably I burnt out and I wasn't able to sustain it long term. Last year, when I went through my whole existential crisis around my business and my career, I had to come to the difficult realization that I couldn't keep running my business the way I had before because I physically could not do it anymore. It was so demanding and it didn't work for me anymore. I challenged myself to take everything I had learned and put it through more of a sustainable lens so that I could actually sustain my success for longer. That's how I developed my entire Sustain Your Success series. The Sustain Your Sales course is one of them in that entire ecosystem of courses. If you listen to the last episode, you know I have one on products, but I also have one on marketing and launching as well. All this to say, it's taken me a while to get here, and I'm happy to overview some of the things I cover in the course as well to give you a preview. It is something that I wish I had before. And that's exactly the ethos of my content and also all of my offers. It's stuff that I wish I had when I was first starting out because it would really shortcut and save me so much time, heartache, and money. This system that I'm about to overview for you and is also covered in depth inside Sustain Your Sales generated over $20,000 for me in the middle of January while I was on vacation. Backing up, one of the things this year that I really challenged myself to do is to put my life first and revolve my business around my life and not the other way around. This year, my sister and I decided to go on a holiday together because it's probably the last time we can do something like this. She is going to be clocking in at this 9-to-5 job, and we had time to explore Europe together. However, it would have to be in the middle of January, and January historically is one of the busiest times for me. I really wanted to challenge this bias that I couldn't go on vacation in one of the busiest months and still make money. So I said yes to going on vacation with my sister, and not going to lie, I had some anxiety and I was really overwhelmed and stressed trying to fit everything and jigsaw it together. Long story short, I was still able to make $20,000 when I was vacationing in the French Riviera with her. And it just proved that if you build a sustainable system that works even when you're away, you have built yourself a business and you haven't built yourself a 9-to-5 that is actually 24/7. Well, let me break down what this looks like. Building the sustainable sales system or a sustainable sales funnel is going to take time. I don't want you to listen to this podcast and feel like you have to do everything all at once because that is going to make you really overwhelmed and stressed out and you're not going to be able to do it in a sustainable manner. That's not the point here. The point is actually to figure out what your roadmap is going to look like and then chip away at it. But that's exactly what we do inside Sustain Your Sales. The first step is going to be your traffic, and I like to call it your sustained traffic. Let me explain. The very first step with any single business is to ensure enough people know about you and or are finding out about you. That's traffic. That's the very first step. Not only that, you don't just want randoms or your friends and family members supporting you. You want to attract your ideal customer because your business is going to be made for your ideal customer. Your products are made for your ideal customer. So you want to make sure that you are actually attracting the right person. That's why having very targeted traffic is so important. But not only that, you want to make sure you are drawing traffic to your business all the time, not just when you have traffic things in place that you are doing, not just when you are recording a YouTube video, or not just when you are doing Instagram posts, because there might be a week where you're sick and you can't get a YouTube video out, or there might be a week you're burnt out and you can't post on Instagram. We need to make contingency plans for that, and we need to have things that are always on, which is why I like to call this sustained traffic. There's a mixture of ways you can set this up. Again, I go way more in depth inside Sustain Your Sales. Basically, there's a combination of organic or free things you can do, and then also paid things you can do as well. I'm going to list them in order that I get my clients to implement them. Because remember, the goal isn't that you're going to go and implement all of these sustained sales strategies or tactics, because that would be so overwhelming. The goal is for you to actually see if you have the first one down pat yet, and if not, work on that first one. Once you've nailed it, move on to the second one. Build yourself a bit of a roadmap to execute this and not just do it all at once, because it's not going to be done very well, if I'm honest. Also, you're going to get so overwhelmed. Let's start with your organic or free things, because these are definitely low-hanging fruit things that you absolutely should do, and it's free, so why not, right? The very first thing is ensuring that your website SEO is so on point. With Recloseted, I was number one for sustainable fashion consulting when people search for that, and I got a lot of clients through that. If you know you're doing a specific niche or solving a specific problem or pain point for your ideal customer, make sure you're ranking for those search terms. First and foremost, making sure your SEO is down pat. This is going to take time to do and take time for search engines to crawl your site and reap the benefits of your hard work. I would say spend a whole weekend making sure your SEO is really, really good. Know that it may take about 6 months for Google and other search engines to crawl your site and then for the results then to be shown. Do this first because, like I mentioned, it does take time. The next strategy or tactic is actually one of my personal favorites, is leveraging collaborations and partnerships. This is a great way to grow your community and ensure that you are growing it with your ideal customer. I would make an entire list of businesses and social media accounts that you may want to collab and partner with. The key, though, is to make sure that your ideal customer is in their community and would follow them. As an example, if I was starting a matcha brand and I was targeting busy corporate working gals that really prioritized wellness, then I would do either market research with my ideal customer to figure out who she's following on social media. I would do that for sure first. And then not only that, I would put myself into the shoes of my ideal customer and think about what they would be following. Maybe they're following creators that make matcha. Maybe they're following yoga, meditation instructors. Maybe they're going to yoga meditation studios. Maybe they're also following people for corporate career advice. Just think about all the different businesses that your ideal customer is interacting with. Also think about all the different creators that your ideal customer might be following or subscribed to. Once you have a whole list, you then want to do a little bit of stalking and sleuthing to actually make sure your ideal customer is in their community. You can just click into the following, click into some of the profiles and see if it matches up with your avatar. And then you can pitch to do a collaboration and partnership together. I go way more in depth about how to actually execute this inside Sustain Your Sales, but this is one of my favorite ways to grow your traffic and continue to actually bring aligned ideal customers into your community. The key, though, is to make sure that you are being really careful around who you're collaborating and partnering with and making sure it's aligned with your brand and your ideal customers, in fact, in their community. So just making sure you're doing that. Another organic tactic that you can leverage is press features or podcast interviews. This is a great way to expand your reach and also for your ideal customer to find out about you. So with press and with podcast interviews, it is a lot of pitching and putting yourself out there. Once you have built up some credibility and some experience, it gets easier and easier. A tip here that I also tell my clients is that you should start small and then go from there. Reach out to local publications, reach out to people in your network, maybe that have a podcast, and then go from there. I wouldn't try to get into Forbes right off the bat, or I wouldn't try to get into one of the top podcasts in the world right off the bat. Start small, build up your credibility, build up your expertise, build up your confidence speaking on podcasts and also on TV or doing newspaper interviews or whatever it is. Build up your confidence, build up your portfolio, and then go from there. And then working with content creators and influencers. This is also a way you can expand your reach and draw in more traffic to your business. I will say with this, there definitely is a caveat. I think if you work with the right content creator and influencer, it can do wonders for your brand. But if you work with someone that is constantly just selling things or constantly pushing things down their community's throats, the ROI may not be there. So you just want to be strategic around who you're partnering with. And then on the paid section, there's of course paid ads you can do. I always recommend to my clients to just start with Meta because Meta includes Facebook and Instagram. It is still the cheapest and most cost-effective way to do advertising. Of course, you can try TikTok ads, you can try Pinterest ads or LinkedIn ads, depending on where your ideal customer is. When it comes to traffic, those are some of the ways you can continue to bring in new traffic and also just put it on automation mode. If you do a podcast interview once, it'll continue to bring you traffic. If you do a collaboration and a partnership, it may continue to bring you traffic as well. Inside Sustain Your Sales, I handhold you through it and I give you all my templates and all my resources like my podcast interview pitch page, my press pitch page. You get all this SEO checklists and tips and all that stuff. Know that, again, I don't want you to do this all at once. I want you to pick one and then move forward. Start with SEO, then do collabs and partnerships, then do press and podcast interviews. Then you can move on to content creators and influencers and then paid ads. Do it in order and don't do it all at once. We now have your sustained traffic, and the next step is to then nurture and warm up your audience. This is so important because it's not enough just to have people knowing about you. We actually need to build up trust. We need to build up expertise with them. And I've noticed that takes longer and longer, which makes sense because there's more and more businesses out there nowadays. I find that people have been burned by a lot of different businesses and service providers. People are always a little bit hesitant to invest with someone new. You do want to make sure you have enough time to build up that expertise, warm them up, and nurture them. The next step I like to call sustained nurturing because it is really a lot of work to continue to nurture people. We want to try to automate and make your life as easy as possible. I will say with nurturing, this is the part that's a little bit more hands-on and maybe there's less you can automate. There's definitely still things we're going to automate and have running in the background to help you. From a nurturing perspective, this is still something you'll need to actively do. But if you mainly just need to focus on this part and you have the traffic and the conversion a lot more taken care of, it is a lot more manageable. Because imagine if you had to do the traffic, the nurturing, and the conversion all the time, which is essentially what I was doing before and why I was burning out all the time. It's just a lot. With the nurturing, there's a couple things you can do to automate it. The first one is having an email opt-in or a lead magnet. This is great because not only can you grow your email list, also you're growing your email list with your ideal customers. If you have an opt-in, if you have a lead magnet that solves a pain point and a problem for them and they find it valuable, they're going to give you their email in exchange for access to it. In that process, you send them an amazing lead magnet, an amazing opt-in, and I walk you through how you can do that and how you can create it and decide what you're going to be doing inside Sustain Your Sales. Having that amazing opt-in will also nurture and warm people up because it's something that's free. Obviously, it's going to be warming them up, but also you can send them a series of emails helping them and supporting them through your opt-ins. Let me give you an example. For my Sustain Your Success series of courses, I have a free course called Your Success Roadmap, which if you haven't taken, it's amazing if I do say so myself, so I'll link it down below. This is a freebie and an opt-in. It's for someone that wants to redefine their version of success. They want to figure out what that looks like. They want to build a roadmap to get there. That's my ideal customer. I want them to be able to see my teaching style, see how much effort I put into all my courses. That then funnels into my Sustain Your Success series of courses. If you want to see the behind the scenes of what that looks like, you can check it out down below. That is just an example. It's a free opt-in to attract my ideal customer, nurture and warm them up, give them a lot of free value. Once they're in my community, I do a lot of nurturing content. So I give even more value on my podcast that you're listening to right now, my YouTube videos, my newsletters, my Instagram. From all those actions, that then makes the next step, which is converting or making the sale. The next step, like I mentioned, is conversion or sustained conversion, as I like to call it. We have people coming to your business, discovering you under the traffic section, and then we are warming them up, nurturing so that they know about us inside the nurturing section. The last part is to really make sure the conversion process is automated as much as possible to make your life easier too. With conversion, obviously, you need to have an amazing web page or a sales page so that they have all the information they need. They can determine whether or not this is going to be for them, but also they can determine what this is going to do for them. And then you should always have the ability for them to check out right then and there, because if they have to go through you, if they have to book a sales call or whatever, that just creates another additional step. But also not only that, if you have a week where you can't take sales calls because you're sick or you're burnt out, then you're going to make no money. It's just not a strategic move on your part. That's definitely a rookie mistake I used to make. I listened to people that were like, you have to always do a sales call so that you can vet people, so that people can also ask you questions and you can convert better. Yes, a sales call can convert better, but I know people that just want to enroll and they don't want to book a call, so it's a waste of your time and their time. I think you can do both. You can have the web page, you can have the checkout, and have an option for sales calls for someone that may have a little bit more questions. Regardless, have an amazing sales page, have an amazing checkout process. I cover what that looks like inside Sustain Your Sales. So if you are curious around how to build a highly converting sales page and highly converting checkout process, check it out. Having the sales page and the checkout is the basis, and then we can layer on top based on your energy levels and based on what you have going on in your personal life. So if you have capacity, do the sales calls. Like I mentioned, it does help convert and people can ask you questions and you can answer them, and it's great. If you don't have capacity, that's okay. You can maybe just do 1 day of sales calls a week, or maybe 2 days of sales calls a week, seeing what your capacity looks like. Once sales calls become a little bit too much, you can then expand and do webinars or masterclasses and sell one-to-many. If you're selling a physical products business, in-person selling is so good. Whenever my sustainable fashion clients launched, I always got them to do 3 launch events, 1 for friends and family, and then 2 more for the public. Every single launch event, without fail, would make thousands for them. Because with the physical products, when people can touch it, they can feel it or try it on or taste it. If you're doing some sort of matcha or something, if you're in the food and bev industry, that's such a game changer for you. In-person events are a game changer, but also a lot of effort and energy. With all that being said, that's why the sales page, that's why the checkout, having that as a basis is great so that it's running in the background and you can still make money theoretically, even if you're sleeping or whatever. but you can layer on more stuff on top of that, like the sales calls, the webinars, and the in-person selling. With all that being said, I hope you can notice that I have leveraged the traditional sales funnel, but tried to make it more sustainable by having things that are automated in the background. Also, layering on top of that things that I can do manually to increase my sales as well. And so if you want the entire roadmap, strategies, tactics, and plug and play resources so you can be well on your way, then check out and enroll in Sustain Your Sales at selinaho.com/sales. The link will also be down below for you. Again, I've spent over 5 years making this. I am incredibly proud of it. It's exactly what I wish I had back when I was struggling with sales and just struggling to get out of bed. And so if you enroll, let me know. I would love to cheer you on. I'm so excited to potentially support you inside Sustain Your Sales. Cheering you on as always, and I will see you in the next episode.